October 1985, a hotel room in Chicago. B.B. King was 60 years old, and he had been playing the blues for 42 of them. He had played juke joints and arenas, church halls and Carnegie Hall, bars where the roof leaked and stages where the lights cost more than his first house. He had earned the right over those 42 years to have opinions, and he had them. The Rolling Stone journalist sitting across from him was 28, a good listener and smart enough to let B.B. talk without interrupting. They had been at it for an hour. Memphis, Beale Street, the Delta, the lineage of the blues and who carried it and who did not. This new generation, the journalist said, leaning forward slightly. Eddie Van Halen, Prince, what do you make of them? B.B. picked up Lucille from the nightstand, the pitch-black Gibson ES 355, her gold hardware catching the lamp light, and rested her across his knee the way he always did when he was thinking. Eddie, he said, fast, technically extraordinary, respects the instrument. He paused. Prince is something else. Showman, incredible, those stages, those lights, that purple coat. His voice shifted into something more careful. But the blues is a different conversation. You don't arrive at it through talent alone. You arrive at it through time, through loss, through nights when you had nothing and the guitar was the only thing that didn't leave. You don't think Prince has that? The journalist asked. B.B. was quiet for a moment. I think Prince is 27 years old, and I think 27 years old hasn't had enough mornings yet. He set Lucille back against the nightstand. That's not an insult. That's just arithmetic. The interview ran 3 weeks later. The headline was not arithmetic. It was, B.B. King, Prince doesn't know real blues. Paisley Park, November 1985. Prince read the article twice. He set it on the studio console and looked at it for a moment. His assistant, a quiet woman named Sandra, waited. B.B. King taught me to bend a string, Prince said finally. I learned that from him. Thrill Is Gone, 1969. I was 11 years old, played it on a $5 guitar until the strings cut into my fingers. He picked up the article again, looked at the headline, set it back down. He's not wrong that you can't fake the blues. He's wrong about who has access to the feeling that makes it real. He looked at Sandra. Get him a ticket. Front row MSG, November 20th. VIP. Tell him I'd like to show him something. Sandra wrote it down, and if he says no. Prince almost smiled. He won't say no. B.B. King never ran from a guitar. Madison Square Garden, November 20th, 1985, 8 o'clock. The crowd was 20,000 strong and had been building since the afternoon, when the first people appeared on the sidewalk, outside the garden with sleeping bags and folding chairs, and the particular patience of fans who have decided that waiting is simply the beginning of the experience. By 6, when the doors opened and the line that had been forming since before dawn finally moved, 7th Avenue was a river of purple. The Purple Rain Tour was at its absolute peak. The album at number 1, the film still in theaters, the cultural moment so complete that it was difficult to imagine it had not always existed. Every ticket gone in 4 hours. The air inside the garden tasted of anticipation, sweat and perfume, and the particular electricity of a room full of people who know they are about to see something they will describe for the rest of their lives. B.B. King sat in the front row VIP section with Lucille between his knees, upright, her headstock near his shoulder, the way he always kept her when he was sitting in a crowd. He had dressed carefully, dark suit, his good shoes, the brown fedora he had worn to every significant event in his life for 30 years. He had come because he was curious, and because refusing the invitation of a man who called you his teacher would have been a different kind of rudeness than anything he had said in print. The lights went down. What followed was 45 minutes of spectacle unlike anything B.B. had seen outside of a stadium rock show. Pyrotechnics blooming at the edge of the stage like controlled explosions, timed to the beat with a precision that was itself a kind of musicianship. Laser lights carving the smoke into geometry, purple beams splitting the darkness, meeting above the crowd and crossing, the whole arena turned into an instrument of light. Prince in a purple coat with gold buttons that caught every color thrown at it, moving across the stage with a physical fluency that was genuinely extraordinary. Spinning, jumping, sliding to his knees, playing guitar while horizontal, while airborne, while being held aloft by dancers who moved around him like a planetary system with its own gravity. The musicianship was real. BB acknowledged that to himself immediately and without resistance. The guitar playing in the first 45 minutes was fast and precise and confident. The voice was something else entirely, raw and controlled in the same breath, capable of a falsetto that turned the top of its range into something that sounded like longing made audible. BB watched it all. He tapped his foot on the concrete floor during Let's Go Crazy. He leaned toward the man beside him during Purple Rain and said something that was swallowed by 20,000 voices. He did not look bored. He looked like a man doing exactly what he had come to do, watching carefully, withholding judgment, waiting for the thing he had come to find or to confirm was not there. When Purple Rain ended and the crowd erupted into the standing ovation that preceded the encore, BB settled back in his chair and folded his hands over Lucille's body and waited. Prince came back out. He walked to the front of the stage without his band. He looked down at the front row. "We have a guest tonight," Prince said into the microphone. "Somebody who has forgotten more about the guitar than most people will ever learn." The crowd murmured, heads turning. "B.B. King is in the front row." Prince's voice was calm, not triumphant, not nervous, calm. "The king of the blues, my teacher, a man who said something about me in Rolling Stone last month that I've been thinking about ever since." He paused. "Mr. King, would you come up?" BB stood slowly, 60 years old, a large man, not a quick movement, and picked up Lucille by the neck. The crowd applauded with the particular warmth that genuine respect produces. BB raised a hand in acknowledgement and made his way to the stage steps. Prince met him at the top, took his hand, steadied him up the last step. "What do you need from me?" BB asked, not into the microphone, just to Prince. "Just sit for a few minutes," Prince said. "Then we'll play." A stool appeared. BB sat, settled Lucille across his lap, and looked out at 20,000 people and waited to see what was going to happen. Prince walked back to his guitar rack. He passed the cloud guitar, past the purple custom, past everything that had defined the visual language of the show. He picked up a Fender Telecaster, tobacco sunburst, plain, the kind of guitar that had been in blues clubs since the 1950s. He held it for a moment, then plugged it into an amplifier at the side of the stage. The stage crew moved without being asked. A choreography Prince had rehearsed with them privately the week before, without telling them why. The laser lights went off one bank at a time. The pyrotechnics were done. The smoke machines went quiet, and the smoke that remained drifted slowly upward toward the rafters and dispersed. The elaborate lighting rig that had painted the garden in purple and gold for 45 minutes dimmed and dimmed and dimmed, one fixture at a time, until the garden was nearly dark. And then one light came on, amber, warm, center stage, on Prince and the Telecaster and nothing else. Madison Square Garden, 20,000 people who had just spent 45 minutes inside the loudest, most spectacular show most of them had ever seen, and it suddenly felt like a room with 40 seats. B.B. King sat on his stool and watched all of this happen and said nothing. His hands rested on Lucille's body. His face was a professional face, attentive, reserved, giving nothing away. Prince closed his eyes. He began to play. No introduction, no announcement, no spoken setup. Just the Telecaster finding the first note of a 12-bar blues in E, slow, slower than any tempo in the show so far, slow enough that each note had space around it to mean something before the next one arrived. BB recognized the structure immediately. He had played this structure 10,000 times. He recognized the tempo, a deliberate choice because speed hides and slowness reveals. He recognized the tone coming from the amp, clean, warm, slightly overdriven at the edges. A blues tone, not a pop tone, not a rock tone, a blues tone. He sat forward slightly on the stool, just slightly. Prince played the first phrase carefully. The fundamentals were right. The timing was right. The notes were in conversation with each other the way blues notes are supposed to be, not a series of sounds but a sentence, with subject and verb and the particular kind of punctuation that silence provides. BB crossed his arms. He knows the language, but knowing the language and having something to say in it are different things. 2 minutes in, Prince opened his eyes briefly, found BB across the stage, held the look for 1 second and closed them again. Then he hit a single note. B string, 15th fret. He bent it up slow, a half step, then further, a full step, and held it there. The note sustained with a vibrato that was not ornamental. It was not technique. It was the sound of a string being asked to carry something heavy and agreeing to do it. 5 seconds. The garden was completely silent. 10 seconds. B.B. King uncrossed his arms. 15 seconds. The note still held, the vibrato still breathing, still alive, still saying something that didn't have a word. 20 seconds. B.B.'s right hand tightened around Lucille's neck. Not nervousness, recognition. Prince released the bend. Let the note return to its original pitch and ring out and fade. He didn't open his eyes. He moved to the next phrase without acknowledgement, the way you continue a sentence without stopping to check whether the person is listening. But BB was listening. His face had changed. Not dramatically. Not the way faces change in movies when revelations arrive. The way faces change in real life. Something in the eyes, something around the mouth. A barely perceptible shift in the set of the jaw that meant the professional assessment had given way to something older and more honest. Prince built slowly. Call and response, the foundational structure of the blues, a voice asking and the same voice answering, the guitar in dialogue with itself. Low phrases, dark and questioning. High phrases, bent and answering. The conversation of a man working something out in public and not hiding the effort. 4 minutes in, Prince played a phrase that made BB grip Lucille tighter. It was built on the bones of a lick BB had played on The Thrill Is Gone, not copied, not quoted, but descended from it. The way a child's gesture descends from a parent's without being the same gesture. Prince had taken something BB had built and grown it in a different soil, and it had become something else while still being related. BB whispered something to himself that the microphone didn't catch. 5 minutes, 6, Prince was not showing off. That was the thing that kept arriving as the most remarkable fact. There was not a single moment in 6 minutes of playing that felt like demonstration. Every note felt like necessity. Every bend felt earned. The feedback he introduced at the 7-minute mark, controlled, leaning into the amplifier, producing a sustained howl that went on and then resolved, was not noise. It was texture. It was the musical equivalent of a voice breaking. 7 minutes and 40 seconds in, Prince played a descending phrase that quoted, in 6 notes, the lineage. Muddy Waters, Howlin' Wolf, B.B. King. 3 names acknowledged in a breath. Then he played something that quoted none of them. Something that could only have come from growing up small and strange and black in a city that was cold in February in ways that had nothing to do with temperature. Something that was entirely his own and entirely blues. B.B. King had tears on his face. He did not wipe them. Blues players do not wipe tears when the music is real. The tears are part of the listening. 8 minutes. Prince built to the final phrase. He hit the last sustained note wide vibrato, a full step bend, held while the vibrato intensified and then, slowly, let it release. The note descended like something being set down after a long time of carrying it. It rang out on the open string and faded. Prince lowered the Telecaster, bowed his head. 3 seconds of silence in Madison Square Garden. Then B.B. King stood up. He stood up and he walked across the stage to where Prince stood with his head still bowed. He reached up and took the brown fedora from his own head, the hat he had worn for 30 years, to every stage, every interview, every moment that had mattered, and placed it gently on Prince's head. 20,000 people made a sound that shook the rafters, not screaming, something deeper, the sound of 20,000 people witnessing something they understand to be real. BB took the microphone. His voice was not quite steady, and he did not try to make it steady. "I said something in Rolling Stone that was wrong," he said. The garden went quiet. "I said this young man doesn't know the blues. I said he hasn't suffered enough. I said pain has a particular address and his address wasn't on the list." He stopped. He looked at Prince, who had raised his head and was watching him with an expression that had nothing of performance in it. "I was protecting something I love, but I was wrong about who belongs to it." He turned back to the crowd. "What I just heard was not technique, it was not showmanship, it was testimony, and testimony is the whole of the blues. That's all the blues has ever been." He looked at Prince again. "Son, you play with more soul than I gave you credit for, and I gave you none. I apologize." Prince took the microphone. The hat sat on his head, slightly large, tilted. He looked at it for a moment and straightened it. "Mr. King told Rolling Stone I haven't suffered enough to play the blues," he said. His voice was very quiet and the garden was very still. "He's right that I didn't pick cotton. He's right that I didn't grow up in the Delta. What he didn't know is that I grew up invisible. I grew up the smallest kid in a city that didn't know what to do with me. I grew up watching my family come apart and having nowhere to put it except into a guitar." He paused. "Pain doesn't come from one place. It just hurts from everywhere." BB King lifted Lucille. "Let's play," he said. They played The Thrill Is Gone. BB's song, the one from 1969, the one Prince had learned at 11 years old on a $5 guitar. BB played the melody and sang, his voice worn with 6 decades of living. Prince played alongside him, not trying to match BB's style, not trying to demonstrate anything, just playing in the same room with the same feeling, in the same conversation. When it ended, 20,000 people stood and did not stop standing. Backstage, at 1 in the morning, the corridor outside the dressing rooms was quiet. The crew was breaking down the stage. The 20,000 had gone home to think about what they had seen. BB sat in a folding chair with Lucille across his lap and a cigarette in his hand. Prince came and pulled a chair beside him and sat down, and neither of them said anything for a while, which was comfortable rather than awkward. "That 20-second bend," BB said finally. "How?" Prince was quiet for a moment. "When I was 16, he said, a girl I loved left. I didn't have anywhere to put it. I sat in my room alone and I played that bend, just that one bend, over and over until I understood it, until my finger bled from the string, literally bled." He looked at his left hand. "That's when I learned that if you hold the pain long enough without running from it, it changes. It becomes something you can give to someone else." BB looked at his cigarette. "I gate-kept something that doesn't belong to me," he said finally. "I decided the blues had a border, a geography, a particular kind of suffering that qualified you." He shook his head. "The blues belongs to anyone who has something honest to say with it. That's all it ever was." Prince looked at the hat on his own head. He took it off carefully, held it in both hands, looked at it for a moment, and offered it back across the space between the chairs. BB shook his head. "Keep it," he said. "It fits you better than it fit me tonight." In May 2015, BB King died at 89 years old. Prince appeared at a tribute concert wearing the brown fedora. He played The Thrill Is Gone alone on stage. He played it for 12 minutes. He held the final note for 25 seconds. When it faded, he placed the hat on the stage floor, looked at it for a moment, and bowed. 11 months later, Prince was gone too. The hat is at the Smithsonian. The plaque beneath it reads, "BB King's fedora, given to Prince at Madison Square Garden, November 20th, 1985. The night the blues stopped having borders." If there has ever been a moment when you dismissed someone's pain because it didn't look like yours, and then discovered you were wrong, drop it in the comments. And which BB King song has stayed with you longest? Tell me. There's no wrong way to feel the blues. There's only whether you're being honest about what you feel. B.B. King.